Lightweight, step it aside when we coming. Feel it in your chest, the syllables get pumping. People on the streets get panic and start running. Words on loose leaf sheet, complete coming. I jump on my mind, I summon the rhyme I'm dumping. Healing the blind, I promise to let the sun in. Sick of the dark ways, we march to the drumming. Jump when they tell us that they want to see jumping. Dad, I want to see some fist pumping. Lift something, take back what's yours. Say something that you know they might attack you for. Cause I'm sick of being treated like I have before. Like a stupid standing for what I'm standing for. Like this war's really just a different brand of war. Like it doesn't cater to rich.
All right, everybody, welcome to Wide Awake Radio. I'm your host, Charlie McGrath. I'm late in typing in my Let's Do This message into the chat. So there I am. I'm typing away. All right, it is the 21st day of February, Monday, and I don't know if you guys heard me talking while the music was still going. I was cracked up by a comment I received on my promotional video. I'm going to read it to y'all because it's funny. Yo, man, what happened to the radio? You're making us go to some chat room? I quit. Okay, here's the deal. If you're listening and you would like listening on Rinse Radio Network, even if you're in the chat room, you're listening to the same Rinse Radio Network, and you'd like to listen to Rinse Radio Network in the Wide Awake Radio chat room, go to wideawakenews.com, click on Wide Awake Radio, and it will take you to the chat room where you can listen to Rinse Radio Network, Wide Awake Radio. I hope that makes sense. I hope that clarifies my position on the chat room. All right, first of all, I'm sending apologies out right now. I have absolutely the worst sinus infection I've ever even heard of, and I was whining to Brent about it before the show. I was going to cancel the show tonight, but I hate doing that, especially with Warren coming on tonight, obviously, and with all that's going on in the news. As a matter of fact, I shot a video that's uploading right now that hopefully by the end of the show is uploaded. Because I think this is it. I mean, this is, you know, in alternative media now for the last couple of years, a lot of people like myself and Warren coming on in a minute have been saying that, you know, Warren's famous line is, you know, we're heading for a dirt nap. You know what? There's no denying it now. If you believe that in the conspiracy theories that, you know, Wall Street runs the government, believe it or not, think that collapse is coming or not, the reality is what it is, and we are in it. This is it. This is what it looks like. When I look around the world and I see hot spots, rolling hot spots that are getting ever more frequent and ever more violent and ever more impacting my day-to-day life and your day-to-day life here in the West, we'll call it, then it's time for me to announce, and which I did in this video. If you're wondering when the collapse is, it is now. You know, with Libya coming out today, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, and I always killed me because why is he only a colonel if he's running the country? But Gaddafi, who we've supported ever since he's become a air quote partner in the war on terror, you know, he's been bolstered by the U.S. government. He's now ordering, apparently because we can't get any media out of there, but reports are coming out of Libya that his own jets are attacking protesters. Some of the jet fighter pilots are like, I'm not doing this, and they're, you know, running away to other countries and seeking asylum. Now, this is just more pushback. This is more unrest that we've seen for weeks now. This one, though, is affecting you. Listening to me right now is going to affect you immediately. They can shut off. Some estimates are 20 to 30% of the world's oil supply. Or flowing the world's oil flow, which is causing the oil futures markets to freak out. And now we're back at to 2008 levels. You know, $105 a barrel in trading, in futures trading. I think we're right around $100 a barrel as I have MSN pulled up here. Not only that, I want everybody to keep something in mind. Okay, in 2008, when speculators drove the price of oil up to $150 a barrel, and we saw, you know, the what that did to our economy instantly. Silver was at about $9, $10 an ounce. Okay, we're sitting on over, by some estimates, and I think these estimates are low, $30 trillion more in bailout money, in printing, in robbing, looting of this nation's future potential wealth. We've had Ben Bernanke, we've had the Treasury, we've had our so-called representatives who do represent Wall Street. They've looted the country. They've thrown us further and further and further into debt over these last couple of years. And now it is all coming home to roost, and everybody who was a naysayer saying that, well, this is just a business cycle, this is normal, that these guys got to figure it out, shut up and let these guys who know what they're doing, these Harvard-educated so-and-sos, figure it out. They've got the answers. Now that the rubber is meeting the road, these people will certainly have egg on their face, but that will not be a consolation by any means, because it is now, in my opinion, going to start to look like Warren Pollock's dirt nap or the unveiling of the collapse. The papering over is on fire, all right? It's on fire. We're seeing protests throughout the world. We're seeing it now affecting energy, which is going to affect you and me. Double, triple, quadruple food prices. We've already seen that without any other protests going on. Food prices are skyrocketing. Yet we still have a Federal Reserve chairman who's going to sit there and say 1.2% is inflation. On what planet? On what planet does he live in? On his planet, when he's rubbing elbows with the yacht club fellas, when he's working bailouts and working backdoor deals and working all kinds of ways to take their failure and make it your failure, the price of food doesn't matter to them. The price of energy doesn't matter to them. They just want to keep the numbers in line so they can keep on with their scheme. They can keep on with their crime. They can keep on raping this nation. And that's what they're doing. But guess what? The nation is about to wake up. And my only hope at this point is not that people can get prepared, because it's too late. You're either ready for this or you're not. And being physically prepared, I don't even know what that means. I know we've had a lot of people on talking about preparation. I think you're smart if you have a pantry stocked for a man-made disaster or natural disaster. But being prepared is mentally being prepared. When you walk outside your door in wherever you're at in this country and it looks like Wisconsin does today, that's a bad thing. When you walk out your door and it looks like Libya does today, well, then you're not going to be ready to handle that if you're not mentally prepared for it. This is it. There is no more, hey, it's coming. It is here. The world cannot go back to the financial system that we had. We're going to see a lot of pain, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of pain coming to the citizens of this world very, very, very soon. And at the end of this, we're either going to come out of this and say we're going to hold accountable the people who brought us here, and we're going to demand integrity in our government, and we're going to go back to a system. We're going to go to a system, not back. We're going to throw these banksters in jail. We're going to perp walk them. We're going to let their crimes be known, and then we're going to start from a base of integrity and build something meaningful, or we're going to take their solution, which is going to be the neo-feudal system, and we are all going to be slaves. And it doesn't matter if you're in the United States, if you're in Canada, if you're in Mexico, you're truly all going to be citizens in the neo-feudal system. Plain and simple. And it started today, in my opinion. The realization started today. Your neighbor is no longer going to think you're a tinfoil hat wearer when he goes out and he's paying $5, $6, $7, $8 a gallon for gas. He's no longer going to think you're an insane conspiracy theorist when he sees the stock market's at 13,000 points and every idiot on the boob tube is telling him the economy's getting better. Yet his investments, his dollar can't buy him anything anymore because inflation's going crazy. And Ben Bernanke, the head of the Federal Reserve, says there's no inflation. He's going to say, wait a minute, what? I've been following these people. I believe them. I believe they were going to do the right thing. They sounded good. They had $50,000 suits on. Sure they got us to where we are right now. Sure they let the economy in this country implode, and then they said they had the answer by doing the exact same thing, by making the too big to fail even bigger and more systemic. And sure, we went along with it. But now I realize these crazy people like Charlie McGrath and Wide Awake Radio and Warren Pollock at WEPollock.com, these guys who've been out here saying this for 2 years, that it's going to come home, it's going to land on you like a hot potato, they were right. Because I can't afford, I'm working 40 hours a week, and I can't afford to put food on the table, let alone watch my ever-decreasing home value and make the mortgage payment on it. This insanity is coming home to roost, and I believe that it is kicked off on this very day. Warren Pollock, are you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you, Charlie. And, I was thinking of canceling, too, because I'm on vacation. But the pivotal events around the world warrant us being with you today to try to figure out what's going on as these rolling instabilities just go from country to country. We're now in in Libya, I think it's 1.5 million barrels a day worth of production pipelines that are there. It's in other countries now in the Middle East, and it looks like our oil supply is hanging by a thread.
Well, if nothing else, Gaddafi's got some leverage, I think, in his back pocket because of that pipeline that runs through his country. Mubarak, he exited because I think the U.S. told him to get out of there. We're going to cut off funding to the military. You'll have a military coup. It'll be ugly. You'll lose the $30 billion worth that you've raped off your citizens. So you might as well just exit now and live lavish lifestyle for the rest of your years. Where Gaddafi, he has an ace up his sleeve. I mean, he can, I don't know what the exact percentage is. I've heard multiple sources today. Everything from 20 to 34% of the world's oil supply runs through those pipelines in his country, and he can blow them up. I mean, he's got an ace up his sleeve.
Well, it's really amazing to me because it seems that his son was poised to take over that country, and it's also quite amazing that he was one of the USA's most vehement enemies. I mean, he was dealing with Idi Amin in Uganda. He was dealing with all sorts of unsavory characters. He was developing nuclear weapons, and then for some reason he got enlisted by the U.S. to become an ally, to drop his nuclear program, to play ball with the rest of the world, and that's how he bided for time. But his people, same thing in the Middle East, as in Libya. His people are all young. They're tired of having people 30, 40, 50 years in power. And in the U.S., as things become desperate, perhaps we'll wake up and realize the same thing. We cannot afford to have senators in power for 30 years, congressmen in power for 30 years, lifers in the Daily Family in Chicago that wind up losing their grasp on Chicago politics, only to have friends and family showing up in the White House. We can't have baby Doc Bush and Papa Doc Bush of the same family of the Herbert Walker Bushes, of the Joe Kennedys, and all of these criminal lifers on the Democratic and Republican side. These people are just criminals.
Yeah,
and they need to be tried.
Yeah, and there really is no difference. I mean, that's a good comparison, Warren. You make that's an excellent comparison. We are overloaded with this rhetoric we get on mainstream media about these despotic dictators that stay in power. Kim Jong-il in power for life. But wait a minute, we have the same thing. What are you talking about? We have congressmen and senators who never ever leave. At least the key positions of power. In our Congress, these guys never leave. They're there forever. They're there 30, 40,
father
50.
And son, and you have these dynasties. And you have the Clintons taking care of, the Walmart family. You have your Bush family that was supporting Brown Brothers Harriman, supporting the Nazis. You have Joe Kennedy, who was just also supporting the Nazis, and he was basically running booze during Prohibition. I mean, you have criminals on both sides of the aisle. Criminals. And
so
they've been around
that's why,
for years.
And that's why the video I'm posting now is World in Crisis, is the name of it. But Warren, I've decided that in my opinion, this is it. I mean, there's no going backwards now. We have citizens around the world pushing back and throwing their leaders out. Okay, and we've seen this. We've seen citizens push back in all these European countries over the last year. None of them have been affected in the way they're about to be affected. The folks who are protesting now in Wisconsin, they're not affected like they're going to be affected. I think we see this year, and this is a really bold prediction, I think, especially somebody who doesn't like to make put timetables on anything. But this year, I mean, looking at everything, Warren, this is the year of you work to eat, plain and simple. You work to I mean, it's going to get ridiculous in this country, and in Canada, and in England, and in Ireland, and everywhere else that people are struggling just to make their ends meet. We're about to see, I think, some sort of hyperinflation in certain sectors, and the sectors that are going to hyperinflate are going to be the sectors that Ben Bernanke likes to ignore, the cost of energy and the cost of food. What is your take on that?
Well, my take is exactly that. I mean, they call it something core inflation. What does core inflation include? Well, it includes everything except the things that you need. It includes all the things you don't need. So core inflation is all the things you could do without. Non-core inflation, that's the thing they don't count because it's supposedly so volatile. They don't want to include it in the index. So the cost of food, the cost of energy, that's nowhere to be seen. So far, MIT has a statistic down cold. What they do is they have their own basket of goods, and annualized, we're right now at the 10% inflation per annum threshold, according to MIT. 10% per year. So we're back.
That's what the U.S. is right now,
according to oil prices. Yeah, annualized. The last few months, we went from deflation to an inflation annualizing to 10%. And you can find that data on Zero Hedge, which will lead you to the MIT site on inflation.
Yeah, very, very believable. And that even seems low. And we talked about what happened last year in commodities and food commodities. And there's always a lag between a commodity wholesale price and the effect that you see at the pump or at the grocery store. There's no hiding it anymore, Warren. Though I mean, these prices are shooting through the roof. Not for one or two reasons, but for multiple reasons. I mean, first of all, we have this unbelievable monetary this money printing around the world, and it isn't just the U.S. The central globalists got together at the beginning of this crisis and said, okay, Japan, UK, EU, China, India, we're all going to go parabolic in printing money, and that's what they've all done. So it only makes sense that we're going to see rampant inflation because of that. Not only do we have the monetary policy of these geniuses, but we also have the natural disasters and the poor weather we've had globally. There's no avoiding this.
We also have the rising middle class. We also have the rising middle class in China, India, Brazil, and they're putting increased demands on oil, which may be peak oil, and we see that now. Peak oil in Russia, peak oil in Mexico, peak oil potentially in Saudi Arabia, with statistics understated. So, Charlie, I do have a question for you. Yeah. And in these places like Greece, Iceland, and now in the Middle East, I mean, these people have what I would call a societal mem. That's just a fancy term for a societal intelligence quotient. So when they see things turning south for the winter, they're hitting the streets. They're in mass. They're protesting. They're trying to change the government system. Do we have that same intelligence in the United States, or is everyone just living a fantasy? A neocon fantasy or a liberal fantasy?
Yeah, well, okay. Let me give you my take on that, and I think you know it, and I know yours on it. So, I don't think that the answer is no. There is not. There is not the understanding of what's going on. That's painfully obvious. But this is the land of pop culture. This is the land of pop culture entertainment, pop culture media, and the masses are absolutely 100%, controlled by this pop culture mentality. Now, there is a very, very small segment that partakes in alternative media, an alternative thought, and is awake and has this perception, ready to take to the streets. I'm ready to take to the streets. I'm sure you're ready to take to the streets, Warren. I'm not ready to do something that's going to get me murdered or get other people murdered, but I am ready to not comply. I'm ready to tell them to take their austerity and shove it. I'm ready to go out there in Wisconsin with these teachers of whose political point of view I'd probably disagree with, but I'm ready to protest. The rest of the country, Warren, I think will end up in that same position, or they will end up a servant. They will end up in the neo-feudal system and just shutting up and taking it. Those are, I think, these is where we're at for options, Warren. You're either going to wake up to reality and you're going to push back. One way or another, you're going to push back. You're either going to do that or you're going to roll over and you're going to be a full-on blank slave, period.
Well, right now, most people are debt slaves, and we don't hear how MERS is working itself out. they declared that whole judge declared that whole engine where they could transfer your mortgage over to an entity called MERS, and then MERS could actually foreclose on you. This way, they could securitize your mortgages. Judge said that was illegal. So what's going on? Well,
we know the same. I mean,
that's not in the news.
Because the news is controlled. It's owned. 6 corporations own 90% of what we get to hear, Warren. I mean,
right.
What happened to the J.P. Morgan silver manipulation? What happened to the Goldman Sachs executives who are betting openly against stuff they're selling to their clients? I mean, this stuff just goes away. It just goes away.
I heard on a news network today, they were looking for call-in people because they had no staff in Libya.
Right.
They have no reporters to send. The only reporter they send out is Anderson Cooper. Oh, gee, you're sitting around. Why don't you go to Egypt?
Yeah, he ain't going to go into Libya. I think he learned his lesson. He got slapped around a little too much in Egypt. He's not going to go to the Colonel's kingdom. All right, we're going to take our one and only break. If you want to call in, do it now, 877-342-6673. Has a collapse begun? That's my question. I mean, not obviously since 2008 I've been preaching that the collapse is here, but has it become reality? Has it become reality for your neighbor? Are they going to wake up now with gas going to soar, food going to soar? Is this it, or are we? Am I jumping the gun? 877-342-6673. We'll be right back.
Future.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to Wide Awake Radio. I'm your host, Charlie McGrath. We stayed over 100 through the break. We usually drop about 15 or 20, Warren. But you're so riveting tonight, they want to hang around and see what you're going to say next. A lot of questions coming in the chat. I'm trying to write them down, but here's the deal. If you want to get your question asked for sure, 877-342-6673. Call in. A lot of talk going in about COMEX default, inevitable, possible, imminent. 25 to 30% correction once mid-east fears subside in a couple of weeks. We're talking on gold and silver here, Warren. And I guess we could talk about that a little bit. I'm almost to the point of if you have it, tuck it away. Don't worry about it because whatever it's going to do, it's going to do. And trust me, if we see a 25-35% correction in the silver market, I'm all in. I mean, there's absolutely no. I'll max out everything I have to buy into that. But some of the other questions were confusion because we've seen this massive 10%. What did I have written down here? 10% on oil, 8% on silver, and a big jump on gold as well today. And yet the Dow Jones still managed to close at 73.11. Up 73.11 to whatever the heck it's at now. I think that goes a long way in showing that all markets at this point are owned. They're owned by the Federal Reserve. As far as what the Dow Jones is going to do, that is our indicator of the economy after all. So they're going to keep that thing. Equities are going to keep being money's going to be shoveled into them to keep their prices up. And we could see a big sell-off in oil companies here pretty soon. But that'll be made up for by the price of oil. People will just turn around and start dumping money into futures and will make a paper killing as people in that region of the world, the Middle East, are killing each other. Warren, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I mean, the funny thing is, I think that for us here in America, these markets will mean less and less.
Yeah,
because I think that it's going to be a determination of who can survive financially. And I have a futures account. Last February, I remember the futures broker calling me up on the beach at the same time last year. Oh, we had 1,000-point down day. All hell is breaking loose. So far up to this year, the future broker is like, well, the market only goes one way. It only goes up. And I'm sure that story is about to change in a day. But people have been chased out of bonds, because
I was just corrected by Freedom for You and Me in the chat room. I'm dealing with this cold and I might have some chemicals in me that make me a little fuzzy because I was pulling up I was pulling up the market summary before the show, and I think you're right. They were closing. It's President's Day. I'm looking at Friday's numbers of up 73. I did look at the foreign markets, and they were all off very substantially. So maybe we'll wake up to a big down
on Friday's
tomorrow.
market, the Dow was up, which is 30 stocks. It was up 70 points, 73 points.
Yeah.
But every single stock was down. The market breadth was abysmal on Friday. The volume has been abysmal. It's just been a matter of people selling a loser, which has been the Treasury bonds, and having to put their money somewhere. So we'll rotate into stocks. Now stocks don't look so good with all this, instability in the Middle East. But all of these machinations are occurring on thinner and thinner volume. The markets are becoming illiquid. Things are becoming difficult to price. And it just shows you it's just part of this rolling instability. It doesn't mean anything. And it won't mean anything to a lot of people if your gasoline costs $5 a gallon.
Yeah, or your canned what you were paying $1 for canned food is now $4 a can. When you're paying
right, and
when it gets
the Wall
to
Street Journal
50-60%,
had an article that most people's pensions, 401ks are underfunded.
Yeah, definitely.
So
all right, I'm going to do this. Warren, I'm going to take a call. We got a caller from Connecticut. Are you willing to play nice
Sure.
tonight, or are you going to get after him?
Well, I might get after him based on, I don't know. I hate to be hard on the listenership, but if I'm just going to tell.
Well, I will understand if you are, because you are on vacation and you're taking time out of your vacation. So if you want to get snotty, that's your prerogative. So, and I'm sure that's not going to happen. Alfred from Connecticut, are you there?
Yes, I am, Charlie.
How are you?
Hello?
Thanks for the call. Yeah, how are you doing?
Okay, I'm good. I want to ask a question. I listened to you and told me you would join the protest in Wisconsin, and you didn't leave me room to understand what side you were going to protest on. Are you on
Neither.
the side
I don't care. I just want to. No. I just want to protest, man. I'm ready to get out there and cast my lot with anybody who's pushing back against this government control. We're seeing this government implemented austerity. I'm not on the side.
Well,
I'm on the side of the teachers in that state. Period. I'm not on the side of the Koch brothers who are engineering the protest, who are trying to not engineering the protest, rather the Koch brothers who are.
Charlie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
can I just say something about this? The teachers are
ahead.
just a dog and pony show.
Absolutely.
Because
what is behind the smoke and mirrors?
You can cut their salary to zero. You could cut their salary to zero. You could lay off every cop. You could lay off every school teacher.
But, okay, what's the point, Warren?
My point is there's still not enough money through austerity measures to pay the tremendous debt which has been accrued.
Okay, let me offer this. My understanding is that 10 square miles in the radius of the District of Columbia is where the federal government is in, and that is where its jurisdiction starts and ends in that 10 square miles. The federal government needs to stay out of and let the governors run their states. And if Scott Walker decides that this is how he's going to come out of this and what is going to benefit the people of Wisconsin, and also it'd be a very good, probably a good protocol for all of the other states to follow, that the governors do run their states. It's either
all right, I agree with that, Alfred. Alfred, I do. Hold on.
I don't agree with that at all. I think.
Hold on one second, Warren. Hold on one second, Alfred, because I don't want to get into a shouting match. So let's do.
Oh, I'm not shouting, am I, Charlie?
No. I'm talking about me and Warren shouting over each other. So I don't want to do that.
Okay,
Alfred,
sorry.
you make a point. The federal government has their fingers in the pie of all the states' business, and they need to be let go, and the states need to be sovereign. And if that was a reality, then I would agree with it. But the states aren't sovereign. The states, I'm going to be paying for the sins of California, who's tanking right now. In New York, I'm going to be paying for the shortfall of the Wall Street banksters in New York. The reality of it is, what's going, in my opinion, from what I've read, and it's been pretty substantial over the weekend, what's going on in Wisconsin is just another example of special interests. In this case, the same parties that co-opted the Tea Party, they want to get rid of collective bargaining. They want to get rid of unions in general, not just public employees.
Okay,
I know that's
Charlie?
what the argument. Go ahead.
Is that okay, Charlie, to get rid of collective bargaining?
No. If I want to be in a union that has collective bargaining, then why should you get rid of it? Why should we get rid of it?
Well, is it beneficial to whom under the circumstances? To the people?
Under what circumstances? Under paying the massive debt that the state is in? Under what circumstances are you speaking to, Alfred?
I'm sorry. My question is it beneficial to the public, people of the public, or the people who are in the unions? It doesn't sound like it's a fair down the middle.
I have to say something right now. I have to say something right now, Charlie.
Go ahead, Warren.
And this is to you and Alfred. The powers that be have won. Because what they're doing is they're playing off Charlie against Alfred on an issue which does not matter. This issue, which Alfred is holding important, and which you are speaking to.
Hold on, Alfred.
Very good point about the amount of time that people
are
spending.
It's not important. It's dividing and conquering us, and we all want to see reform. And this is the way that the media today is framed. You turn on your Fox News, or you turn on your CNBC, or you read your newspaper, and they demonize a group of people who, in this case, are sticking up for what they might lose. But in reality, we've already all lost. We have already all lost. And what we depend upon for our life support, we're going to lose, and we are losing, and in the process of that loss. And no one is protesting it. So that's the problem with debating these issues which are raised by the media. They don't speak to the overview. The overview, and I'm going to say ass-fucked, we are about to get ass-fucked. And we're about to get ass-fucked when it comes to our ability to garner for ourselves life support. Our economy depends on oil. Our economy depends on imports. Our economy doesn't produce jobs. All it does right now is slice the pie smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And its government determines who's the winner and who's the loser. Mostly the only winners so far are the multi-billionaires and the multi-trillionaires and the people who are in power. It is imperative that these people be tried for treason. It is imperative that we have integrity. It's absolutely imperative that we don't speak to these divide and conquer issues. They're not relevant.
That's a great Warren.
They're not
Warren.
relevant.
I just typed into the chat room that truly, as I'm getting heated up, and Alfred, I'm going to give you a few minutes to go on here, but as I'm getting heated up debating, what we should be allowing and not be allowing the citizens of Wisconsin to do, that I typed in the chat, that was a voice of reason, because you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. If Alfred and I are arguing about this, then we've already lost, because the real issue has nothing to do with can they collective bargain or not anymore. The country is bankrupt. It is absolutely 100%. We're all going to feel austerity, public, private, it doesn't matter. So my hat's off to you.
Well, worse. It won't really be an austerity.
Charlie, do you remember
ahead,
in 1983 when Jim Traficant made that speech before Congress about the United States being bankrupt? And look what they did to him for making that type of admission.
Yeah, he was in prison for quite some time. Yeah, he was in prison for quite some time, wasn't he?
Yes. And I don't know where under the radar is going to be at this time. But I want to go back to when you said something about Libya and how this is going to be sort of the linchpin of what's going to happen now from now on. There's something or are aware of, or at least you have inclination to something about what might be happening from Libya and spreading right across that entire Mideast area. And it's scary, man, very scary.
It is. It is. And my point there was that when we saw it happen in Egypt, Egypt doesn't have my point was this. the day-to-day lives of the people listening to this program in the United States, Canada, or in England or Germany or wherever in the West, let's just say, when they listened to what was going on in Egypt, they saw citizens pushing back. They didn't feel in their pocketbook. When I see what's going on in Libya right now with the ability to control so much energy supply, then that is when it's going to start. When we start hearing mainstream media talking about highest prices on oil futures since 2008, and we couple that with the fact that food supplies are diminishing and prices are skyrocketing on that. Couple that with the fact that Warren just explained, the Dow Jones is going to start, or the equities are going to start to look less attractive, and more money's got to go into somewhere. And where's that going to be? It's going to be into commodities. Well, all of a sudden you put all these together, and this, huh?
Or the dollar. I mean, or the dollar. You could look at the dollar getting stronger, because this is the key. This is the key.
Well, my point was that everything is going to start to affect the average Westerner starting now. I mean, when we start talking about restricting energy supplies, ever increasing food prices, and less supplies in food, this is when the rubber is going to meet the road, Alfred. That's what I meant by that.
Right. And what are we talking with these? Charlie, what are we talking like with the teachers? $40 billion.
Right.
And what are we talking about the U.S. military? $1 trillion.
Hold on, Warren. Hold on, Warren. 1 second.
Gentlemen, you talk about the oil in Libya. What about oil in Prudhoe Bay? Why isn't there some directives for us trying to bring that oil out of the ground so we can take benefits of it here, rather than keep going to the Mideast, and there's many problems there. And we're going to go to 5 and probably higher if we're going to continue on this same path. We have plenty of oil here in the United States. But to depend on the Mideast, and they're in crisis, it's just the game.
Go ahead, Warren.
Is that agreeable?
No, it's not agreeable. But again, people. This is the bottom line. Why does our federal government state that they spend $740 billion in military protection per year, and it's probably $1 trillion? Nobody's talking about cutting that in any substantive way, because that is our supply to energy. The reason we have a reserve currency, that's also why we have the military in place. Now, I'm not a scientist. I can't tell you what the reserves are of oil in the United States. From what I've read, we seem to have peaked in the 70s. From what I've read, from what I've seen. But I'm invested in oil and gas companies.
Other people maybe want to have the phone, but I think I really appreciate you gentlemen listening.
You're cutting out on us, Alfred. Are you on? I don't know if you're on a cell phone or Skype, but it's getting real chattery. I appreciate the call. I appreciate the debate. I always like callers calling in with a counterpoint of view. And Warren, somebody in the chat room pointed out, as you did, I got sucked into the old left-right debate, and I did, and I answered back. Yeah, Warren slapped me back into play real quick. Let's pretend we didn't hit peak oil in the 70s. And even if we started today to try to develop, the Bakken Reserve in Montana here, which, every time you hear about a new reserve they find, you hear the same thing. It's 3 times the size of Saudi Arabia. If that's the case, why are we spending $1 trillion a year to keep the military supply line, using the military to keep the supply line of energy flowing into this country? I think the reality of it is, when we see disasters in the Gulf of Mexico and they're drilling at 5,000 feet, it's because they can't go on land and get it at 200 feet like they used to. And even if they could develop, coal or oil shale in the Colorado area or the Bakken Reserve or Prudhoe Bay, even if they could develop all this, it's the end of cheap oil. Maybe we'd have energy that costs 10 times as much to produce, still grinding this economy to a halt that trucks everything that we eat 1,500 miles. So that, looking internally, looking to our own resources, I'm all for that. But let's look at it and be genuine about it. If it was so easy to pull out of here, we'd have pulled it out of here. I know a lot of people want to blame the environmentalists, and trust me, I live in Montana where they can stop a timber sale with one postage stamp and get an injunction on it. So I know there's problems on both sides of that issue. But even if we developed our own energy, and we're still using fossil fuels, if we're still using oil, to me, I think we'd be far better off to look at, I know I'm going to get slammed for saying this, but look at the French model where they have, what is it, 60-70% of their electricity is used or generated by nuclear power.
90%.
Pardon me? Yeah.
90%.
Go ahead, Warren. Go ahead. I'm going to cut it to you because
here's the difference. France has 90% of their electricity is generated nuclear, but that's not what uses the most fuel. What uses the most fuel is transportation. And when you look at a picture of the globe at night, and I did a presentation on this, you'll see how far the lights are spread apart in the United States versus Europe versus China and elsewhere. So our people are highly distributed across a great geography, and we spend tremendous amounts of energy getting from place to place. And that energy is entirely, at this point, oil-based. Entirely oil-based. And that makes us extremely vulnerable. There's been all sorts of new technologies which have enabled natural gas to reach all-time lows in terms of price. So in the interim, we have a lot of natural gas we could use. I've seen in communist countries cars converted to natural gas. Maybe we'll have to go in that direction temporarily. But
didn't we even have T. Boone Pickens out there pushing natural gas when we were $140 a barrel?
Right.
And what happened to that? I mean, what?
Yeah, and they decided instead to burn food as fuel.
Yeah. Yeah, great
point. But,
point.
and right now the federal government has plans to regionalize the country into 10 areas and to split it apart and to make the states irrelevant. And what they're hoping for is for these states to go bankrupt. And then they'll get rid of a lot of the bureaucracies in these states, and they'll regionalize them. They're doing that with the school systems presently, where New York State Regents is going to be displaced by a regional school testing facility. So this idea that we're going back to state independence, I would sooner trust somebody in Washington than I would in New York State government.
Yeah, well, if it was true, if it wasn't a planned region or planned zoning of the country, and it was organic secession movement, then I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I'm all for taking away the power, the centralized power that we have. But I agree with you that what the plan is to break down the states financially. And we've seen all this massive corruption at the federal level bailing out the too bigs, but when it comes to the states and the people, the citizens, they're going to get the cold shoulder and say, no, you're just going to, you're going to have to implode. And we see it happening now. Michigan today ordered Detroit to close 50% of its public schools. I think we're going to continue to see a melting down in society, across the country, and then we'll be ripe for this regional thing you're talking about.
Right, and that's you nailed it. Here in New York just state wants to take over Nassau County with a board called NIFA. Michigan wants to tell the state of Michigan wants to tell Detroit what to do with its school system. So it's like small fish being eaten by medium-sized fish being eaten by greater-sized fish. But none of that fixes the structural problem. None of this jiggering will fix the structural problem. And even if we were to go back to each state being its own country, that won't fix the problem either. It will actually cause us to go into a dark age. That's my thinking.
What would fix? I mean, I'm going to ask you this question, and you're going to tell me integrity, and I agree with you. But what do we need to have it happen then, Warren? Do we need to have this massive civil pushback? People taking to the streets and not leaving until the corrupt are shuttled out in the dark of the night, in an absolute collapsing of the current financial system that is nothing more than a Ponzi scheme globally. Is that what has to happen before we can get to the integrity? Before we can start over again?
I don't see that we're going to have an uprising here in this country. I mean, I don't see it presently. I see us going down the routes of slavery and looking for a handout from government. People saying, "Well, you fix things. You better fix things for us."
Yeah.
Totalitarianism. That's what I see on the horizon in this country, or collapse, either or. And you have that ethical problem about what news outlet you want it to be on, Charlie. I don't know if you want to talk about that, or if you've made up your mind on that, or not. I want to keep it confidential. But
I'll just since you titillated the room there, I'll when Russia Today approached, they sent me an email asking me to come on and talk about the connection between the actions of the Federal Reserve and the banking cartel globally, and is it connected to what's going on in Egypt and Tunisia, in my opinion. And obviously I have thoughts on that. But I consulted a little bit with Warren because I don't know the agenda of RT, and then Warren so eloquently pointed out, really does it matter? I mean, get on there, get the message that I'm going to remain loyal to, which is my message, my point of view, and get as many people as possible, enlightened, or at least do my part in trying to enlighten people to what's really going on. Go ahead, Warren. We have about a minute left. Go ahead.
Well, that's funded by the Russian government. I thought it would be a good thing for you to do because you could gain more domestic following. However, these people want to undermine the United States. A lot of their guests want to undermine the United States, including Alex Jones, John Birch Society, and other prominent guests of that media network. They're there to put a nail in the coffin of the United States. Russia wants us to collapse and never get up. So you have to make an ethical choice. What do? Do you go on and get more support because a lot of the people that are awake have been listening to people with any idea that's different? Or do you not get on that media network? And that was sort of an ethical choice. I said, okay, well, maybe you should go ahead, be on Russia Today, but realize who you're dealing with. There's a lot of people that don't realize that they're dealing with the Russian government. There's a lot of people that don't realize the good intentions of John Birch Society are very dangerous for your future.
Warren, I got the music. Warren, I greatly appreciate you coming on. I got the music playing in my ear, and I just want to, in the last minute this plays, when I stop and think about when I lay in bed at night thinking about this kind of stuff, it is troubling to me. Who hears me? What is my message? What am I trying to say? And I guess in one way, I'm looking for a collapse of the current system of government we have in this country because it isn't the government that was. Regardless if you think the constitutional republic ever existed or not, we certainly are not there now. We are in a corporatocracy that I think needs to come apart in order for us as humanity, us as United States citizens in particular, to have any chance of pursuit of happiness and liberty in this country. Plain and simple. So, Warren Pollock, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking time from your vacation. Stay tuned. Jeff Rintz is coming up next.